now a legislative update. We're going to find out what's going on with the General Assembly in Raleigh, and our legislative updates this year are brought to you by Potash Corp Aurora, who wants to keep everybody informed and thinks people should pay attention to what's happening in Raleigh, because there's usually a lot. Although right now it doesn't sound like too much. Because
I was getting ready to say, there's nothing going on. Good show. I'll see you later. Thanks for having me.
Representative Brown represents the 9th District of North Carolina in the North Carolina House of Representatives, and he is live in the studio this morning. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good.
Good to
How about
see
yourself?
you.
Good to see you.
So we're hoping that there's going to be a state budget in our future.
I have my Halloween costume picked out to wear trick-or-treating around the legislative building.
You know, it's crazy. There's you and I were just sitting here talking about it. I mean, we're entering the 4th week of the new fiscal year. Mm-hmm. And as we sit here this morning, I was just asking you, is there anything going on with the budget? And you said
nothing. Nothing. And folks, there's your legislative update.
Well, I know that, everybody took the 4th of July week off, and then you came back, and I know the House leadership was at the Speaker and some of the chairmen were out at a conference in San Diego. So is this going to be the week that they really get down to business and trying to negotiate something with the Senate and the House on the budget?
We hope so. We hope that those conversations start this week for sure. At this point, I've heard no meetings noticed or discussion that's going to happen, but you never know. I mean, those conversations can start to happen this morning, and those schedules to start to be set today, and certainly we hope, and the taxpayers should hope as well, and quite frankly, the members, we hope as well.
Yeah, you thought you'd be out of session by now, back on with your real life,
back home, trying to earn a living and be with your kids, but so far not so good.
Yeah, there are. The way this thing works, the House passes its budget, Senate passes its budget, and then you put a conference committee together to negotiate it. And when the conference committee, we were all wondering who was going to be on the conference committee. And when the Speaker of the House announced the conference committee, it was 82 people. Now that's not a committee. We hear that you guys are actually holding your conference committee meetings in Carter Finley Stadium.
That's right. Yeah, we are. We're going to see if we can rotate it around the state. I think Dowdy Flicklin will be next time. And
now the Senate has appointed 32 people. But how many people are really going to be at the table, do you think, to hammer out these disagreements?
Well, I think the reality is that you're going to have your key senior budget appropriations, senior finance chairs as well on both sides, both chambers, probably doing the majority of the really high-level items that need to be taken care of and negotiated, looping in the governor and obviously Speaker Moore and President Pro Tem Berger will get involved in those conversations as well. I do believe that the 82 members and the 32 members are more ceremonial than anything else. I think it's a shame, to be honest with you. But that was the choices that were made. I think that being a part
why
of
were
that,
they made that way? Do you have any idea?
I have absolutely no inkling as to why that was made. Obviously there's a lot of speculation, but I have no real reality as to why that was
It's
made.
unprecedented. Usually you have about 20 people
and I
in
think
the room.
that it's one of those committees, quite frankly, that is a very prestigious committee to be appointed to. And I think that appointing this many members is kind of a farce and disrespectful to the process, in my opinion. And I say that very vocally, and I've said that in caucus and
have you said that to Mr. Speaker?
I've said that in caucus aloud. So and I think that a lot of members feel the exact same way. And it's just not. I was asked by our communications director, do you want an individualized press release to say that you're on the conference committee? I said I do not, because I don't believe that my constituents are that disengaged in the process to believe that 82 members is a good thing.
Yeah.
You're not going to get a budget worked out, a 555-page budget, $22 billion budget, and have 82 House members sign off on it. It's not going to happen.
And there are so many disagreements that you always have disagreements between the House and the Senate, but this time around, it's not just disagreements; it's philosophical in where the state is going and how it should be run. The Senate has put a lot of policy in the budget that nobody likes to see policy go into the budget, except the Senate. They obviously like it, but you've got this philosophy from the Senate that everything starts with lowering the corporate tax and bringing taxes down again. But in doing that, they're throwing in a bunch of new taxes that no one has seen, heard, or talked about, or been vetted taxes on veterinarians, taxes on advertising, taxes on auto repair. It's a huge shift in the way the state is being run if we're going to start taxing services.
Yeah, we've made it very clear in our caucus that those are non-starters. Don't even bring those to the table because we won't support them. We will vote a budget down with those items in it. Doing a redistribution, and I mean that both from a lowering sales tax or lowering personal income taxes just to add in different service taxes, that's just not that's not the way to go about it. It's sleight of hand. It's moving the ball around under the cup game, and it's just not the way we should be doing business. I think there's better ways and better approaches to go about it, and I think that there's better success stories across the country where people have not done things like, I know that you're very passionate on the ad sales and what Florida did with that, and them having to come back pretty much immediately and reverse that because of the detriment it was to the economy. I think we can do better than this proposal.
Well, I mean, some of these things are going to be very detrimental to small business. I mean, the veterinarian tax, I don't really get why the veterinarians have been singled out.
I think we've done some great things, and it's one of those things. Tax reform, from my purview, is something that has to work for a little while before you truly see the fruits of the labor. And we haven't allowed what we've done from a tax reform standpoint last session to truly work through the cycle and see a few tax sessions. I would like to see it kind of boil a little bit longer and see exactly what we can, kind of rise to the top before we make any further changes to it. But obviously there's some others in our chamber and in the Senate chamber that feel differently.
I talked about this in the 7 o'clock hour this morning. There's a editorial in this morning's Greenville paper, very negative towards Senator Harry Brown and his sales tax redistribution plan. It says that it would take up to $200 million from Mecklenburg County. This is a reprint of a editorial that ran in the Charlotte Observer. We got Senator Brown to give us his response to that. And, his response was that Pitt County, that it was strange to have the Pitt County newspaper run that editorial since Greenville and Pitt County would win under the plan. Some people have called this a redistribution of wealth. The governor doesn't like it. The governor says he'll veto it if it's in there. Where do you stand on it?
I oppose it, vehemently oppose it, viscerally oppose it, in fact. Pitt County would win if we went ahead and raised the property taxes that he's allowing us to raise in the plan. It's sleight of hand. We won't win. At some point, the golden gooses in this state, they will stop laying eggs. And mark my word, 15 years from now, if this passes, those counties that we feel like will actually benefit from this redistribution, they're not going to have the revenue coming to those counties that is going to be such a significant boost to the economy that they're going to be able to fulfill their infrastructure needs, fulfill their school needs. They're just not. Counties like Pitt County are still going to have to do the bulk of the work. They're still going to have those individuals from Bertie County that's going to come into Pitt County each and every day. They're going to work at Vineland Medical Center. They're going to work at East Carolina University, and we're still going to have to pick up the tab for doing our infrastructure, for providing those essential services in this county. I just think it's a bad plan. I think it's a bad step forward. I truly do. Don't support it in any way. And in fact, irregardless of what's in the budget, would vote against the budget if this is sent back over to us. Do
you sense that it's gotten any traction in the House?
Yeah, I think a lot of your rural legislators see it as something that could truly benefit their county. And yeah, anytime you have additional dollars coming into your county, that's certainly a benefit. But again, look at the counties that's contingent to Pitt County. Those individuals, a good portion of those individuals who live in those counties don't actually work in those counties. They're not generating their income from those counties. They're generating their income from counties like Pitt County, counties like Mecklenburg County, counties like Wake County. That's where the dollars need to stay. That's where the businesses reside, and that's the way the process needs to continue to work, because it's something that it's just needed from an infrastructure and essential services standpoint. And any shift in that income, I think, will be detrimental to future economic impact across the entire state.
And Dare County is a big loser in this. I know the folks out around Nags Head and Manteo are very concerned about this because they haven't solved that problem yet. I know some of the counties might be held harmless. I know Carteret County, I think, was held harmless somehow in the deal, but Dare County would be a crushing blow to the state tax money coming back to the state, to the county of Dare.
And as Representative Paul Tide will tell you, Dare County already does more than their fair share in terms of paying dollars back to the state. So I mean, it's
Representative Brian Brown live in the studio with us this morning as we continue to try to get a state budget. Here as we start the last week of July, the fiscal year started July 1st, and the state has no budget.
No budget.
The continuing resolution that was passed by the legislature only goes through August 15th.
August 14th. So
August 14th. So
12:01 on the 15th.
So the clock's ticking on that, and essentially we'll just have to have another continuing resolution if no progress is made.
Yeah. And I mean we're looking August 1st dead in the eye. So I just don't I don't see it happening. I mean miracles could certainly happen, but considering not a lot of conversation's been had yet, and we're still so far away, not just from major budgetary items, but you also have Medicaid reform that's out there that both sides have promised that we want to reform. The plans are very competing. So we've got to come to some compromises on several items.
You know, we've talked so much over the years. You've been the champion of the Brody School of Medicine since you've been in the legislature, and you've done a lot to protect Brody. You know, there's more legislation this time around from the Senate that's going to be very damaging, not just to Brody, but you know, we talk about taxes. They're also eliminating tax credits that hospitals get, and that again. If you want to talk about hurting the golden goose,
absolutely,
in Pitt County, Vidant Health would be really hammered,
absolutely,
if that were to pass. What do you see the chances of that taking place?
You know, that's one of those strong divides. I honestly see that's got some possibilities to it, and it's unfortunate. And we're working very hard to make sure that doesn't happen. But you know, at some point, our leadership is probably going to have to sit down at a table and say we're going to give on this item to make sure this item doesn't take place. And where does that lie on the priority? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
You know, we're making sure that our voices are heard to ensure that everybody understands where we stand on it and what detriment it would be to Pitt County. But again, as I say, at some point you walk into leadership's office day after day and say, this is going to be a detriment, this is going to be a detriment, this is going to be a detriment. They have to start prioritizing what they perceive as being the biggest detriment down to the smallest impact on our county, and then start to work towards those things.
And some people think that all these new taxes this year that we haven't heard about are negotiating tactics.
Sure.
The things that have been thrown in there. You know, they've been talking about this hospital thing for a long time. That's come up every year. And now you have, you know, advertising tax, veterinarian tax, sales tax redistribution. You got all these other issues, and there's not a lot of discussion about giving hospitals taking away the hospitals' tax credits.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest fear, at least for people like myself, is you know, you see a lot of these policy items that have been thrown out, and you know, from my perspective, I understand that a good portion of these are simply negotiating tactics. They have zero ability to get through, nor do they have really the desire of the body to get through. But what will slip through is we're trying to fight those things that likely had no chance to begin with, and I think that's the biggest fear as we work through this process to make sure that whatever is that final thing that's hammered into stone is not having a real significant impact on our county, and if it has a very significant impact on our county, it's going to have a huge ripple effect across the eastern part of the state, which you know we just can't have.
Yeah. It's interesting times,
to say the least.
Representative Brian Brown from the North Carolina General Assembly. What else is on your mind as we head into the meat of the summer now?
Getting my kids back to school.
How are you dealing with all that you've got to do? I mean, you know,
a strong, beautiful, wonderful wife.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
You do.
No, you know, back from a business perspective, we have a great team back there. From a family component, you know, Rochelle just does a great job with the kids, and you know, and I try to be around as much as I possibly can, especially throughout these downtimes where we know nothing's going on. But you know, I do look forward, and again, I say it in reality, the taxpayer should really start holding their senators and representatives' feet to the fire, because it's time. We are a part-time legislature. It is time to get this done. It is time to bring some assurances to our education system, make sure that our community, our medical community, feels like they're on solid footing, and make sure that the business climate, when we go out recruiting jobs and trying to make a larger impact to the state of North Carolina, that they feel like they have some consistency. You know, we've actually, and this is not being talked about, but I'm going to say it, we have the highest unemployment rate we've had in 9 months. But yeah, we're still dealing with a budget. it's time. It's time for us to bring some certainty to this state, and it's time for us to close this down and get back to work at attracting business and making sure we're doing some really impactful things for small businesses and jobs.
Because of the way this session has gone, there's been a renewed discussion. Some people are saying, you know what, we need to eliminate this idea that the General Assembly members are part-time. We need to go ahead and pay them a full-time salary. So because it's now gotten to the point where they're spending so much time in Raleigh, they can't hold another full-time job, and that's generally the case.
Well, that's an absolute fact.
You're doing it because you got such a you got a wife who's able to run the business, and you guys are in a business that a lot of people just couldn't do it. I don't know how you do it, but some people can't do it, and so there is a lot of discussion about doing away with a part-time status and actually paying people a full-time salary to be in the General Assembly. Do you think that's a good idea or not?
I think it's wise. Yeah, absolutely. I think that the two best things that this state could do would be to change it from a part-time to a full-time, and extend terms to 4 years. And I'm not saying that in a re-election speech here. This is just the reality that I think you're going to get better policy out of it. Number one, if it becomes a full-time legislature and they have full-time pay, you're going to have a better quality representative up in Raleigh. It's somebody that truly could go and somebody that's got some good business experience, somebody that's young and vibrant and willing to go up there and really kind of do what's necessary. A 4-year term would do a lot for policy, because as it stands right now, you get through the long session and then everything turns to campaign mode again. And the short session becomes a farce, essentially, because you're just campaigning. You're out raising money. You're out trying to talk to constituents. Maybe you have a primary. You're getting ready for your general. So what really happens is this 2-year term gets compressed into 1 year, and I think bad policy can often come out of it because it's not properly vetted, it's not properly tweaked. Some items are rushed, some items are slowed because it's just the legislative gamble that you play. But I really believe that you would get more substantive policy, and you'd get just a better quality product that comes out of the legislature.
All right, it's great to have you in here this morning.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.